What is happening, everybody? It is Tuesday, PGA DFS strategy show, sponsored by Yahoo. Of course, we'll tell you a bit about them and an exclusive deal we have in just a little bit. But first, I want to bring in my co-host, Ben Rasa, and tell you guys about the Awesemo run we have going on over here at the golf team, the Live Before Lock show. Now, we don't necessarily pick winners here. We're talking more DFS strategy on this show. We give some outright bets, but that Live Before Lock show, since when I came on that 1 week and 4 other straight weeks, we have nailed the winner. So, Ben, tell everybody what drew you to Joaquin Niemann besides Eric Lindquist telling you Joaquin Niemann.
Yeah, I mean,
tell us about the week last week.
It was good. Obviously, you know, for a lot of you guys, if you're over on the OddsChecker YouTube, you see early in the week, put out the breakfast menu on Tuesday mornings, and Niemann was my pick there. And, this is what we talk about each and every week, you and me. When you get a guy like Niemann, who's not a strong putter, and he finds the putter for 4 days, this is the result more often than not. And it's impossible to predict when that's going to be. You throw him out there, and Luke List has done it now. Niemann has done it. So I'm very excited to see who in the Florida swing maybe breaks through. I think there's some candidates, and we're going to try to keep it rolling here.
For sure. And let's talk about Jaco as he goes by in his on his Twitter profile and a couple of other places as well. First wire-to-wire victory in, over 50 years or something close to it at the Genesis. First wire-to-wire victor we've seen in quite some time on the PGA Tour. Other thing I noticed about him, a couple of other things. First, how about the around the green game, Ben? Do you think it was just basically going to Kikuyu, got a lot of good breaks, had some chip-ins, or do you think that maybe over the offseason he could have worked on it? Because you and I both know we've been following Niemann for a while. Streaky with the putter, awful around the green, very good everywhere else. Well, if he changes that like we've seen with Cantlay over the last couple of years, seen with Morikawa certainly this year, he could become an elite player if that really is changing for the better.
So absolutely. I mean, no one's as good as his around the green was last week, but it looks like he's shown some real improvement, and it doesn't have to be the strength of his game as long as it's not the glaring weakness. See, the other thing that I found just ridiculous about this whole thing, Niemann's 23 and he's got over 100 starts already on tour. Like the guy knows what he's doing, and he's so young. We're going to be seeing this a lot. Like a lot of people expect big things from Niemann. I wouldn't be stunned to see him win again this year. He's got everything that you want. And I think the next step is what does he do in majors? You know, is he going to be able to compete? Clearly he can compete against those guys. That's a major level field, but what does he do at the majors?
Be fun to watch this year for sure. Now, after the event, in his winner's interview or whatever you want to call it, he mentioned, which I thought was a very interesting comment. He said, the 2 days or 3 days that he held the lead over the weekend, it felt like a month, but it was only 4 days. Obviously, if somebody says that, that means, they're pretty tired, mentally drained. Obviously, to win against every single golfer in the world's top 10, it's got to be a big feat. So where do you think his mental energy sits right now, number one? And number two, when and where do you bake that into your analysis?
Yeah, so it's always really tough to, we try to quantify that a little about.
Yes.
I think Niemann, and I want to ask you this. Yeah. So to me, Niemann is more Scheffler. Definitely. In the sense that he's just a player. And even though he won, and it wasn't a break, he had won before, but probably a monumental win, he's kind of apt to keep it going more than like a Tom Hoge or someone who really.
Luke List even, yeah.
Yeah. I think Niemann is more on the trajectory where this guy, it's pretty obvious he was going to be successful, even if he didn't win this week. So I don't really knock it down, but you're right. There's got to be just mental energy expended when you're in contention for 72 holes like that. And now you got to fly across the country and play Honda. It's not the easiest setup.
Here's kind of where I'm aligning right now. Cam Smith, I think you and I both agree, great player. He's transformed. He won TOC, and the way he won TOC, he was basically in the lead all 4 rounds, right? I don't know if he was the ending round leader in 1, but certainly 2, 3, and 4 he was. He had a big letdown at Sony and then was able to bounce back after Sony. I kind of feel like we're trending towards that with Niemann. That was a really big win for Niemann, as I mentioned. And I just think spending that much time at the top of the leaderboard, having to sleep on it, I'm looking for an off week this week. That's the way I'm playing it. Do I think that he's out for a couple of weeks? No, I think in the TPC in a couple of weeks at the Players, I think he could be right back into play. I just think this week, traveling cross country after a huge win, he's 23. So, he just got paid $2 million. Are we thinking that a stop in Miami overnight in the clubs is going to happen? It's going to happen. Now, he could probably bounce back a little bit better than my 33-year-old body could. It's just where I'm going to play it this week. So now let's talk a little bit about PGA National, where they're going to be playing, right? This also is not, Cam Smith going to Wiley. Wiley is certainly harder. Well, I can tell you that PGA National is going to be much harder than Riviera was last week. Let's start there.
A lot of water, technical, animal themes, bear traps. It's just tough. And then we don't know, is it going to be really windy? Like, is it going to just be absolutely brutal or just standard hard? So we have to kind of figure that out. But there's no doubt it's just a different skill set. You need to work your way around here. You got to avoid the serious blow-ups. We go to Bermuda, of course. So I think there is something to be saying about you go to the Florida swing and certain guys just pop up that haven't been playing great. I think we see that every year.
Yeah, and we'll go over the rest of the Florida swing quickly here, but I see chat is buzzing with our regulars. I see Mikey and Spaz and Gangrene all in there. And Brian, thanks for joining, guys. Of course, if you're in the chat, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel here and to this video. Make sure we're giving you guys what you want. And also when our videos like the breakfast menu and my top 5 sleepers and values come live, you will get notified. So also want to thank Yahoo, sponsor of our show here. Really good deal. Want to tell you about it quickly. If you're not an Awesemo Plus Platinum member, great way to get a free month. All you got to do is go be a new user at Yahoo, sign up for an account, enter a paid contest, even if it's for the PGA DFS one starting on Thursday, and you'll get a free month. If you are staying, let's say Thursday, you're going to skip NHL for the next few days, just send an email to support@awesemo.com and we will get you hooked up with that free month. So really good deal. We've got a bunch of sports, NBA obviously coming back, and a great time to join us over here. So let's talk just a little bit more about PGA National, Florida Swing. We've got Honda Classic, Arnold Palmer, the Players, and Valspar. It comes with 6:50 a.m. lock times, Ben, but a different style of golf. It's just a total change of pace from the West Coast swing for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Just different. If you are on the West Coast, sorry, I would recommend that you set the alarm for like 3:30 a.m. to see the withdrawals. Got to kind of do it this time of year. For me, as a New Yorker, I'm happy.
Fitz last week, 14% owned. Joe, I just saw in our chat, was at my home club here in Tampa and was on the first tee when Fitzy withdrew last week. You got to pay attention to that stuff.
You do. Absolutely. I mean, we were playing, basically rake free in some contests, and that stuff adds up quickly. So yeah, it's just a different style down here. Again, I think the one thing that before we start diving into the top of the board that I'll say, if you're looking at course history and stuff, don't be surprised to see it's almost impossible to not just get straight unlucky one year if you play a course like this 10 years in a row. A couple of water balls on Thursday or Friday and you miss a cut. Like the variance in Florida is so high because the difference between, a bad shot and a slightly worse shot is a stroke penalty sometimes, instead of it's just a worse lie in the rough. So you have to consider that when you're looking over the course from a long-term standpoint.
For sure. Now we're going to talk about the top of the board here this week, which is going to look a little different, obviously, in the last few weeks where we've had a lot of the world's top players skipping this week. Some are skipping next week. Every single one actually will play in the Players in a couple weeks. So maybe a 2-week off for some of the world's best, but still a pretty strong field. We had a question in chat. One of the players that was obviously linked to the Saudi tour, which looks like it's falling apart now, and kind of what you said you expected to happen last week, Ben. So kudos to that. Too bad we couldn't bet on it. You probably would have taken in some money, but Ian Poulter, his name was linked to that. He comes over to Honda, and it looks like Eric recommended him in the betting video. I think it was. And he asked about the discrepancy between prices and books. You want to just talk to that quickly?
Yeah. So that's just a, friend of the show, Dan, always on the Odd Chopper channel with us. That's just a good catch. That speaks to the importance of using the tools because especially in golf, like even with Neiman last week, I was fortunate to get him at 60. There were 50s, there were 45. You want to maximize it. And in this case, I will pass that along to Mr. Lindquist. He'll be very happy to know that you can find much better than plus 330 out there for Poulter. There are some other books hanging much different numbers. Now that's so extreme. I don't even know why, but it just speaks to the importance of line chopping in general. You want to maximize that got to look into that exact situation. But yeah, you save a lot of money over the year if you are taking the time to use OddsChecker and use the tools.
All right. Totally agree with all of that. And you can find some better odds probably on this first guy we're going to talk about, Sungjae Im. He is the top of the board this week. He has won here, not the defending champion, but has won here and has holds. Now, he's only played like 8 to 12 rounds. So take this with a grain of salt, but he is the only golfer other than Tiger Woods to have a scoring average under 70 on this golf course in his round. He obviously likes it. He likes the grind. He's also typically, at least the last 2 years, the best player in the field. So do you focus on him in the betting market and say the one and done market where I am, or do you think he is also viable even with his $11K price tag on DK this week?
So I definitely think in one and done, he's more than reasonable if you haven't used him. The betting market, I just don't love the odds. It's a really short price. But the one thing that's kind of crazy, and you just alluded to this, Honda low-key is a garbage field. I hate to be a downer, and I love this event. It really doesn't draw a ton. And I think we see that with the top of the board. Like, these are guys we don't normally see as the betting fit. You know, Sungjae is hovering around 10 to 1 in the outright market. That's just not a number we ever see him at.
I got to be honest, at Len Hochberg on Twitter, he's also a DFS golf writer. He has chronicled the Honda's strength of field better than anybody. If you guys want to learn about it, what Ben just alluded to, the Honda being a low-key, just terrible field, go take a look at his Twitter handle. He's got a couple of things on there. It's not good for some reason. My opinion, the players don't want to come to a really hard event with a bunch of water when the Players is 2 weeks later and the Masters is 5 weeks later. They just don't have any interest in it. And it's showing, you know, and they don't really care that it's Jack Nicklaus's event either, I guess, which it is what it is. Somebody who is here and who does care is Louis Oosthuizen. Has only played once this calendar season, but it was kind of exactly what you and I expected. Gain strokes everywhere. T14. Pretty solid for 10,800, though. We need him again in the top 10, something he has not done here. So do we look at course history or do we look at just his overall form to play him this week?
I like Usti. I have no problem. We've seen him have success at Valspar, playing just at an elite level consistently. Guy doesn't miss cuts. Putting is good. It's been good for years now. Seems pretty safe. He feels overpriced like everybody else, but that's just the nature of this event. So he's a Florida guy. I believe he lives in Ocala at this point. I think he checks most of the boxes. So he's going to be a pretty strong starting point in any form.
One would think in this type of field, playing as good as he is, it could be time for his first PGA Tour win.
Yeah.
Again, official PGA Tour win. We know he has a major, but those aren't PGA Tour events. Joaquin Niemann, we already talked about it. Sounds like you're more apt to play him than I am this week. Maybe not up to his projected ownership, but I think we can move on to Daniel Berger, who is a great discussion. I watched your odds show yesterday with ETN. That was a good show, the opening Honda Classic. And you and him both agreed you kind of want to start your ticket with Daniel Berger. And I want to tell you that I think I agree with you, but I don't want to start my DFS lineup with Berger because his volatility right now for me with his back injury and whatnot is much greater than just taking him as an outright market. If he makes the cut, he's probably going to play well. If he doesn't make the cut, obviously he won't, and he'll kill you in DFS. He won't kill you on the betting card. That's exactly how I'm handling him this week. It's how I typically handle him when he's one of the top 5 players in the field.
I'm with you. I'm not vehemently opposed to playing Berger in DFS, no doubt. I could get on board, but I think he makes for a better bet right now. One, because there's a chance that he's just critically injured style with his back. I'm worried about that.
Because he has to.
Yeah. And so situations like that, I'd rather just incur more risk with an outright because he fits the formula. There's no doubt. He's a 2-time winner at St. Jude. He's a winner at the AT&T Pro-Am. He's a winner at Charles Schwab. Puerto Rico Open second, a lot Honda second. Like he just has the par 70, lean on the irons, lean on the putting. Bermuda, believe he went to Florida State, I want to say. I like him. I'm not saying I'm not going to start with him, but I would rather find the money to Usti at first glance.
Yeah, I'll take a guy that's going to ride in on a horse every day.
That's right. Boost, man.
Great comment by Gangrene there in the chat. You got to love it. Let's talk about Brooksy now. I think it's a good spot. Florida State teammate of Berger. Listen, we know why he's here. There was a little thread yesterday between Wiley and another player, Jesse, in the industry that were basically saying, hey, look, Brooks is here because he brings in revenue to the event. And with Brooks being at an event like this comes Chase. Does Chase belong in this field? Probably not. Has he made the cut a couple of times? Sure. And it goes with Brooks. It's basically, and there's a couple of players exactly like this in the field this week, which goes to the volatility of this course, I think more so, is he's got a bunch of top fives and a bunch of miscuts. If he's here, he's going to play well. If he's not, he's going to sleep in his own bed and not care to go to the golf course. At 10,100, are you really paying to see that this week?
Our tools do a great job of identifying what the field is going to be doing. Probably not, I'll be honest. I think that he makes for a pretty good bet as well, because listen, when Brooks gets going,
he's definitely the best player in this field. Yeah.
Yeah. Like 22-1 is his number, like at Augusta and stuff like and now it's this Honda field.
He's playing against such a bad field and he's the same odds as Augusta.
That's what I'm saying. So I think you have to do something with him. Third miscut recently. So we know it's there. We know the volatility is there. Ownership will tell the tale. If he's lost, I will go to him. I think people are going to start to realize in this weak field that Brooks Koepka is sitting there. And that could amass some. So I'm lukewarm to it in DFS. I think he's a great addition to the betting card.
Tommy Fleetwood has 2 trips here, 2 top fives. Another name that was linked to this Saudi tour. Obviously, that is folding. He won't be going there. None of these guys even made statements. See, they were much smarter than Mickelson. Even if they were going to go, Poulter, Westwood, the guys that were really tied, never really said, hey, we're definitely going, like Phil was saying. So
maybe Kokrak are on their own island.
Yeah, Kokrak and Phil are definitely alone. Even Bryson has now come out and he's like, hey, I can't get involved with this. I'm ruining my brand as it is. So Fleetwood, you're not getting a price discount. Hasn't played great. It was okay over in Europe, right? I think I saw one top 10.
It was fine.
9-9 though? Or would you rather go to Billy Horschel? Not as good course history, but certainly has good course history when his driver is doing well, which it seems to be right now. Yeah,
so certainly Tommy Fleetwood's going to get the bump because of the course history, but it's such a high variance course history. I don't read a ton into that. I'm a Fleetwood fan like most. He's seen kind of a dip in form. He was on the precipice of winning majors not that long ago, and now he's kind of lost some of it, particularly when he's over here.
A European Tour event, yeah.
Yeah. I think I would go Billy. You could play both. That's an interesting build if you omit I'm okay omitting the top 5 here. Last couple weeks I've said it's too strong when you've got Rahm and those guys. Here, I think you could definitely build balance. If you double click, you've got 7,600 still for the 4 spots. So like Billy Ho, don't mind Fleetwood. If I had to pick one, it would be Horschel.
Yeah, so Horschel, and you and I are typically ready to fade Horschel.
Yes.
But he's got stats that line up similar to Oosthuizen, gained all 4 ways at the Waste Management a couple of weeks ago. And like I mentioned, if you dig into his stats or his finishes here at Honda, when his driver is in form, he plays well here. Now, again, volatility of the course. When he's not driving it on the planet, he hits into the water, misses the cut. We're going to say that a bunch about a lot of players, but Horschel at 9,600 certainly looks the most appealing he has to me in a long time. And maybe that's a product of the field because you got 9,400 Shane Lowry, who, hasn't missed the cut here, but doesn't have a top 20 finish either, I don't think. Maybe a top 15. What do you make of Lowry this week? Again, form is similar to Fleetwood. It's okay. Nothing great, nothing bad either.
Yeah, it's tough. I think that he does benefit if it looks like really nasty or windy. Shane Lowry's built for that type of stuff.
He's T21 as his top finisher.
He doesn't play as much, so we don't get to see him, but I think he's in pretty good form, and I'm comfortable with the price. He's obviously, people forget that Shane Lowry, guy's got some hardware. Quietly a major winner only a couple years ago. So he can do it, no doubt, in a field like this. So I'm okay with it.
Alex Noren is up with his European buddies again, being priced pretty high, 9,300. So how do you compare? And now this may be a good rank for Eric Lindquist tomorrow. I'll be excited to hear what he has to say. You got Lowry, you got Fleetwood, and you got Noren, right? The last 2 years, we've been like, oh, Lowry and Fleetwood for sure. But Noren has entered the conversation again, and his price shows. So how do you rank those 3 Europeans this week?
It's tricky, there's no doubt, but I like Noren. I think that he fits the profile of the type of guy that could break through. He's been close here. He's quietly playing pretty well. He's made 3 straight cuts. He's gained 3 straight weeks with the approach. He's gained strokes putting in 2 of 3, around the green in 3 of 3. If he can just survive off the tee, I think Noren has the game to be just fine. And I actually like him more than the guys around that sim range.
Yeah, and driving accuracy only coming in at like 63% this week. So Noren definitely in play. A little bit more info on the course if you guys are interested in it. Goes a little bit more deeper is my course and player preview here on YouTube. You can go get it right through our channel here and it'll come up. Also, my first cut goes a little bit deeper into the stats than Ben and I do. Here on the show, we like to talk about players a little bit more. And one player that I think you and I both agree, if he was in his best form, he would be the highest priced player in the field. But for the last 2 years, we don't know where he is. He may not know where he is, no offense. But Matthew Wolff at 9,200 does become intriguing. I've said to you a couple of times, this is the price I like to pay for him because I feel like I can get away with a miscut at $9,200. If he's 11,000 like Sanjay M, you can't get away with it. Here, I think you can get away with it a little bit more. Is he on your radar or just not there enough for you?
So Matthew Wolff, as frustrating as he is, to me, he's one of the easiest players to evaluate because there's, to me, no rhyme or reason of what's going to happen. You know that if you play him, if he doesn't have it, he's going to finish dead last, and you have no chance with him. But at the same token, he can come out and just destroy a field, and we're going to see that a couple of times this year. I'm very confident of that. So if the ownership is right, I do think he's one of the few players that you should consider just allocating shares to every week and know that on a couple weeks, he's going to pay you off. And on the rest, it's probably going to tank some lineups. And I'm going to approach that with Wolff. I'm okay taking some of the absolutely, the Amex. He was not in it at any point. He had no chance to make that cut. But at the same time, he can flip it just as easily. So I'm worried about him. I think he has very high miscut equity. But if he's low owned at that price, you have to consider it.
Totally agree. I'm on the exact same page as you. Now, further question. When Keith Mitchell won, there were a lot of Keith Mitchell-esque players that were also in the top 10 on the leaderboard. Long off the tee, not a great putter. So would you do a thematic build like that with Mitchell, Wolff, a couple of the other, we'll call them power players off the tee? That's my first question about Mitchell, and then I have a couple more.
Yeah, I think Keith Mitchell, for whatever reason, has shown that, ironically, sometimes when he's forced to be less aggressive, he's actually more effective. Luke List does this sometimes off the tee. You can gain strokes off the tee by just being Bryson, or you could be Molinari and gain strokes off the tee by keeping it in the fairway a lot. And at Honda, I think that Keith Mitchell gets the best of both worlds. So I get it. I don't mind going off the tee heavy on certain lineups. I never get Keith Mitchell right. I'll admit that. He's just not a guy that I get right. But I see why his off the tee game can translate here, even if it doesn't seem like it at first glance.
All right. So I have a little bit more notes on Keith Mitchell. And this is maybe more a real golf statistical nerdy kind of thing. But after a little bit of research, and it really didn't take much because I follow the right people on Twitter, it seems that Keith Mitchell has adopted something called the decade system. It's run by Scott Fawcett, and it's also been picked up by Stuart Sink, who ended up winning a couple of times last year, picked up by Harris English. Kind of the Sea Island brethren, if you will, have kind of adopted the system. And on a very high level, the system basically means it takes advanced analytics and takes all the strokes gained information and says, here's where a golfer on each hole is getting the most strokes in a specific category. So off the tee, you have to take out, because unless it's a driver or a layup situation, they would analyze that as well. But it's where you're gaining strokes the most from in the fairway or in the rough, from which side of the fairway. When you're gaining strokes around the green, where are you missing? Are you missing low of the green, high of the green, et cetera, et cetera? And it seems that Mitchell has adopted this system this year, and the results, or at least the consistency of top 20 results, seem to be there. So I think I really like that system. Like you said, it's turning an aggressive player into maybe a little bit more intelligent aggressive player. And I do think that's helping his results. So I'm willing to back it here. I think this guy's got tremendous talent. If he can just find the putter more than 5 weeks a year, he's going to be a consistently good player on tour. Against this field, I like him here a lot this week.
He's got elements. I don't think he's to Wolff's level. Like Keith Mitchell grinds and he can make a cut when he doesn't have it. But Keith Mitchell's another player. One, if you get him through, he outscores his placement, which isn't as important at PGA National because it's very difficult, but everything checks out. He's automatic off the tee. Bermuda's his preferred surface. It makes a lot of sense.
Now, let's talk about the defending champion for a second. After the TOC, and we'll talk about Matt Jones, of course. After the Tournament of Champions, my first question to you was, that's a Matt Jones, almost a career round. A career tournament, even with his score. Obviously, he came in second. But how long would it be till Jones came back into form? And we both agreed it would probably be a little while. And it was. But last week, we saw him bounce back with a top 15 after a rough start to the season. So do you think he's trending in the right direction and we can fire him up? 9,000 obviously is a product of being the defending champion, however.
That's obviously the big problem I have. I really don't like the price point. Now, he's definitely trending upward. So he gained 9.5 strokes tee to green last week. He lost 4 strokes putting. He really could have been there. He came in 15th, but it should have been a lot better. That's the only sign of life we have seen from him. He had lost in the irons in 3 of 4 before that. Comes to an event he obviously likes, but my God, you're paying the tax. Like Matt Jones at flat 9, even in a weak field. I have trouble with that. I think he's an okay play, but that is a really tough opportunity cost to roster.
For sure. All right, let's move on to maybe some of the more values on the board. And this segment is called When, Ricky ? And
it's going to be a quick segment. Never.
It's going to be a really quick segment. Maybe the answer is never. But at 33 years old, we've probably seen peak Ricky. But if he's going to break out of a slump, what's going to break him out of the slump? Is it going to just be a simple made cut like we saw last week? And now we're back on Bermuda. We're at home. We can flip the putter back. Or are we really trending towards being $7,000 priced in this field next year? We're $7,600 this year. Are we going lower next year?
It feels inevitable because so the way I look at guys, you have to, especially at the elite level, you have to do something. You can be a masher, Cam Champ, like he has an out. You could be Denny McCarthy. He has an out. He's the world's best putter.
Yeah,
Patrick Reed.
Short game.
Yeah, Morikawa. You don't have to be Morikawa, but you could get crazy out with your irons. Ricky's out used to be putting. It used to be putting. Look at all his wins. He gained 8, 9, 10 strokes putting occasionally. He's lost in 5 straight events with the putter. And until he does that, I don't think anyone, like, I mean, I can ask you as a golf guy, you know a lot more about the game. When Ricky even was at the height of his powers, I never considered him an elite ball striker. I considered him a good enough ball striker and one of the world's best putters and short game players.
No doubt about it. His irons were always a little bit better than his off the tee game. But there's no doubt that his short game and specifically putting is what propelled him to his heights. And you mentioned 5 straight losing with the putter. He's switching putters each and every week. Clearly, something's not working. He had the LASIK surgery or whatever he did. He's trying a lot. Nothing's working. So at 7,600, I'm guessing there's 2 other guys at that price you'd rather play over him. Ian Poulter, who's already brought up, and one of the Hodgegard twins, whoever decides to show up. Nikolai is, I guess, the one in the field, but I guess we'll probably never know who it is. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, we'll know who it is. Would you rather play both of them over Fowler, or is Hodgegard still a wait and see? His brother came over and never got it done. Yeah,
so no disrespect to what is this guy's name? No disrespect, and I can't even remember his name. Nikolai. So I know a little about Rasmus. I don't know much about this guy. I definitely like Poulter more. I like Denny McCarthy more. Wise is a little more expensive. Those type of guys. Ricky, he's going to a place that he's had past success, but you just have to truly ask yourself, is that even in there anymore? Again, that's just, it's been 5, 6 years. I'm not sure it is. So I don't have a ton to say about Ricky. If he's 3% owned, will I get 6%? Probably, but I don't know how you play him in single entry or anything like that. I really don't.
Yeah, and for Hodgegard, he is your total boom or bust. I think it's 2 missed cuts and 2 top 5s, including win in his last 4 events. Kind of similar to what we've seen with Tom Hoagie, just a lot of missed cut volatility, especially at a course that already has that anyway. All right, let's go back up the board, talk about Mito Pereira, who has 1 decent finish. His Chilean brother wins, and he gets a $2,300 price bump. Explain the price bump to me. Obviously, it's odds tied, but why is he getting priced at the odds to win that he is? He hasn't really shown us that much this year.
No, the putter has been a revelation, gained 6 in 6 straight events, but I kind of like Matt Jones for different reasons. I like the play in theory, but when you go to build with him, I have some trouble with it. So I like Mito, and I would like to make some room. I may look to him a little in the betting markets because I think he's got some talent, but I'm a little stunned. His recent form is not anything where it's like, oh, wow, yeah, Mito should be up here. And that part of it was confusing to me. But again, he's definitely got talent, particularly with the flat stick right now.
Maybe two guys that are supposed to be priced up here, given their recent form, and maybe one guy that isn't is the next three on the board. We'll start with the guy that isn't, Patrick Reed. Really struggling with his driver. Everything else looks okay, I guess. But when you can't put the ball anywhere near play and it's not far, not a long way off the tee, I mean, you struggle everywhere. So just because only 60% of the greens are hitting regulation, does that give us a reason to play Patrick Reed this week?
I'm gonna not play Patrick Reed until I see something off the tee. It's so alarming that I'm not sure he can overcome a lot off the tee. We've seen that, but no one can overcome -5 strokes tee to green. That's impossible. So wait and see with Patrick Reed. For me, I will continue to short him.
Guys that are playing pretty good or maybe warrant the price. Brian Harman, 8,700, quietly having a pretty decent season. No miscuts, 2 top 15s and 1 top 5 in his 4 or 5 starts. And here, 6 of 9 made cuts with a couple of top 12s, no top 10s yet. So Harman in play for you, or would you rather go to heat check for Cameron Young, please? Heat check 1-2.
I think I'd go to Harman. Guy just knows what he's doing. Putter, consistent, gets it done, can compete against fields better than this. Cameron Young, I don't know much about him.
I can tell you something about him. 2 weeks ago, he was added to the field on Tuesday night, and Alex and I had no idea. DraftKings didn't tell anybody about it. Here he is later, coming in second at the Genesis. I mean, it's a pretty good story nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's got talent, and he's an absolute masher off the tee. I just don't, certain guys, like, that almost qualifies as the mentality of a win. Like, that's a life changer. So where does, like, with Neiman, we've asked that question. Cameron Young also used an insane amount of energy. And now he's here, and you're paying a premium price for this guy. He's got talent, but I worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, over $1 million last year. I mean,
yeah, that'll work.
Just snuck onto the PGA Tour through the Corn Ferry. I mean, it's life changing. And I remember our Slack, which now into Discord, they had this guy at the U.S. Open last year. I'll give it to, I think it was to Geoff. He messaged me the other day when Young was climbing up the board that he told me about him. I think he was a member at the same club, Sleepy Hollow, out there in New York. So anyways,
right
good story there. Yeah, that's right near you, isn't it? Yeah.
Like 1 minute down the road. Yeah.
Oh man, you should be playing all the Cameron Young, my dude.
I played him last week, just a tiny bit, just on a complete flyer. I have trouble knowing, is he Will Z, or is he a guy that we're going to look back and say, remember when that guy came in second that one time? Like
we did Thomas Peters.
Yeah. Well, oh my God. Thomas Peters, I'm not going to derail the show, but him and Luke List sweating that cut last week was just awful. Both of them just absolutely miserable miscuts.
Did you see the thread of more Peterisms? He threw his putter, kicked his bag, hit a tee box. I mean, it was
about right.
Anyways, not to derail, because anytime Peters is brought up, Cameron Young, good player, amazing week last week. I'm probably out as well. I mean, he had it all going. He had that chip in or hole out on Sunday. It's some great stuff nonetheless. Jonathan Vegas is also here, has not played well finish wise, scoring points. Yeah, decently, but 8,500. I think you can get the exact same form from Aaron Rai. And the most recent form at this course, no miscut since 2015 with a top 5. So actually, course history is actually probably a plus for Vegas this week.
It's going to be interesting. He needs to flip or fix the putter a little bit, but he kind of, I think, correlates well to Keith Mitchell. Same concept, really good off the tee, but maybe something about Honda forces him to rein it back, and that could be to his benefit. So clearly Vegas likes this style, and I think Keith Mitchell has shown that as well. So I'm not opposed to Johnny Vegas.
Yeah. Aaron Wise is here. The only good thing I can say about that is we're on to Bermuda. We're out of the POA and Bent, which I never want to see Aaron Wise on ever again. Not that he's that much better on Bermuda, but at least his best finishes, like OHL Mayakoba, his win, all came on Bermuda. So at least that part is good. Ball striking looks Aaron Wise. He's never been bad at ball striking.
No, there's some things. I definitely think he's closer than the results would indicate. The ball striking is okay. Honda's a good course for him. This guy low-key has serious splits to these type of courses. He's a winner at Byron Nelson, second at Mayakoba, third at Bermuda, fifth at CJ Cup, sixth at St. Jude's. A lot of technical layout, force the club down, lower scoring, par 70 type tracks. This is what we get here, but you can't lose 3 strokes putting and 3 strokes around the green and expect to do much.
That's not going to happen this week. I'm going to go on. Maybe the putting will. The putting will. I think he bounces back at least around.
I do too.
Mac Hughes is kind of the opposite of that. Volatile this year. I keep saying volatile this year because when we get into our strategy part, I want to ask you, how many of these guys do we want to have in one lineup? Is there a right number? Maybe there's not, but we'll talk about that a little later. For Hughes, he's kind of in that realm right now. A second place at the RSM, a 15th, a couple weeks ago, a couple missed cuts. Decent track for him. You in play this week, and Gary Woodland, you can tell me that never to play him again because I don't think I will.
I don't see myself getting to. I would like to get to Woodland. It's not happening right now. And I don't think
Ricky Fowler. It's not like he's done anything better.
Yeah, it's
not better course history.
There's nothing to indicate. Just like Ricky, yeah, you're right. In the sense, there's like Gary Woodland may very well turn it around, but there's nothing to indicate that it's going to be this week. Outside just randomness. So I don't mind Mac Hughes. You've got Bez right there. Elite putters. They know what they're doing around the green. They have to survive off the tee, but that's the same for them every week. These courses are probably better setups than normal.
Russell Knox fits into the volatility of this golf course. Couple missed cuts, couple good finishes, playing good golf. When his putter's on, I saw one of our buddies in the industry, CS Murphy, tweet about Knox's finishes here when he putts well. He comes in the top 5. When he doesn't, he misses the cut. So what type of putting week do we get out of Russell Knox? The $1 million question, of course. And where is he in your allocations this week?
Yeah, well, we probably get pretty bad. He's lost strokes putting in 7 of 8. And that's just typical Russell Knox. The ball striking is fantastic. Not really good. It's funny. This should be a really good track for him. And the results in the last 5 years, miscut, 51st, miscut. So like Russell Knox has done absolutely nothing here in the recent history. Now, long-term, he has a second and a third. So that's where it gets a little difficult to decipher. And I think we know that if he putts, you're going to find something, but if he doesn't, it's not going to change. And he struggled here in that regard. And I worry about him.
Don't have to worry about putting likely with this next guy, Christian Poseidon, who you already mentioned. Also want to mention free today. You can check this out for yourself, is our golfer projections or our DFS projections for this week. And what you'll find when you look at that is Christian Poseidon is your top projected value of golfers priced at 8,000 or above this week. Now, it just so happens he is right at 8,000, but nonetheless, a pretty good value based on our projections. So, Ben, are you going to back our projections this week with pretty healthy allocation to Bez? Because I believe I am.
Yeah, I think I'll go there as well. And friend of the show, Stewie just mentioned, Taylor Moore. I think he makes a lot of sense right there. Definitely. Same price, playing well. I have no issues with that either.
Yep. Starting to get a little bit more airtime too. Saw him on TV quite a bit last week. So yeah,
he played well.
He did. He is playing well this year. So I'll go into Taylor Moore a little bit. You already mentioned Denny McCarthy, but I wanted to ask you the reason why he missed the cut. We all know it. It's because you used him as your hot take 2 weeks in a row. We know that's against the rules.
It's true.
So I'm going to give you another chance because it wouldn't be breaking the rules. Does Denny McCarthy get his top 5 right now?
I think he might. I actually like him. 7-1 for a top 10 is on the card already. Denny McCarthy has shown he can handle this course. He's got a top 5 in the past. He's still made, I know he missed the cut at Waste Management, but before that he had made 7 straight cuts. He's gained strokes putting in 5 of 6. He's an elite putter everywhere, but Bermuda is his preferred surface. I think Denny McCarthy is a great tournament play. He's missed 3 cuts here, but the other one was a third. That's what you're going to get, and I can live with that.
Same here, especially in tournament play. Lee Westwood is another guy that I kind of pegged for tournament play. Given that he's had a pretty good season, he was obviously linked to the Saudi Tour. Has some good finishes here, but not his most recent ones. He's missed the cut. However, Florida has shown to be very good to him. A couple top 5s in the Players and Arnold Palmer last year when Honda was after those events. So maybe coming over here, just getting started, 49-year-old, maybe this is the week to play him and fade him as the Florida swing moves on.
I don't think that that's unreasonable. We've seen Westwood pop up in Florida. This is the type of course for his game at this point in his career. He knows what he's doing. His putter for many, many, many years has let him down at times. And it's hard to know if that will change, but he also got crazy hot last year, right around this time. He came in second at the API, and then he followed up being second at the Players, which I never would have thought would happen. So clearly he likes the Florida swing.
Sure does. Probably because he's mostly Bermuda, I would say, in his events. And those just tend to lend to bad putters being less bad. I'm not going to say they're not going to lose strokes putting. They're just not going to lose 6 and 7 strokes like they would on POA or something like the Genesis greens that can be ridiculously tricky. So, all right, we got Westwood. Now let's talk about KH Lee and CT Pan. Lee hasn't missed a cut since Sanderson in the fall. And CT Pan, after following up a pretty good start, typically has a letdown in the last 4 instances. I looked that up. 3 of 4, he didn't play good that next time out. Actually, when I go 5, it was 5 I looked up. It was 3 and 5 and 2 and 5. So maybe not much statistical mention there, but he did have a good week last week and played well here last year. So Pan or Lee or neither or both?
So I thought I'd be more interested in Pan, but I kind of think it's a trap, to be honest, because he's got that weird combo. He gained 5 strokes putting last week. He's lost in 5 straight events with the irons. I think there's more concern than it seems, and maybe he's got a little upside, but I have a feeling that CT Pan misses the cut, to be honest. KH Lee's a little tougher for me. I don't know. I'm not even going to pretend. The guy... KH Lee gained 5.2 strokes on the approach at Amex, and then he lost 5.2 strokes on the approach the next week at Waste Management. So I'm not even going to pretend to know what's going on here with this guy.
Yeah, he's definitely hot and cold. There's not one good stat that he's good at, and there's not one that he's bad at because he's hot and cold with everything. Just how he is, unlike Aaron Wise, who we know we're going to get good ball striking from and have no idea short game. Lee, we have no idea through the board, so I'll stay away for that reason this week. Michael Thompson, a couple of good starts this year, 5 and 11 and 3 missed cuts. A couple of good starts here, including a win and a couple of missed cuts. So it seems like you maybe would play him over the other guys, or is he in the bucket of no play this week?
He's another one that it's a little tricky because you can't really look at his recent form because he comes to Florida and he seems to get right more often than not. And I struggle with guys like that on the first wraparound. I think I would rather play Aaron Rye or Poulter in the same range. So it's not a priority. It's not impossible that I get to a little of him. I don't think I want to chase it. There's just other guys.
All right. So with the Farmers, it was the Farmers. Aaron Rye, you just mentioned him, started Eagle Birdie, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Ended up making the cut there. I think he came in last. But what he's doing is he's scoring. Even in the 3 rounds at Pebble, he ended up missing the cut. It's 61 points. That's not terrible. At the Farmers, he was good output. And last week, again, 17 birdies at Genesis last week. Pretty good output for 6,600. So do you think that his ability to score and the winning score here this week being single digits is good for Aaron Rye? You think that could end up getting another top 10? Or do you think the miscut equity is a little higher than a core play this week?
Might be a little of both, to be honest. I definitely think there's some unknowns, but I tend to say the Europeans in general are a little more suited to some of this stuff with the wind and the type. And even we had a super chat we talked about KH Lee, but Willett, who is in the 7K range, I think he's got a lot of miscut equity, but I also think at he could be very low owned. He's worth a share or two because these are the type of guys, if the winner is 12 under or 9 under, I trust those guys a little more than guys that are programmed to go 25 under each week. I actually give a bump to those type of guys in this situation.
Well, let's give a little bit more note to Willett here since we got a super chat. You ready for this? Miscut, 33rd, miscut, 71, miscut, win. That's the form leading into his last win. Here we are right now. Since his win, miscut 27, miscut 39, miscut 35. So I guess what I'm saying to that is you almost have to throw recent form out with Danny Willett and say, flat 7, 0 ownership. I can go get 5 to 10%, get massive leverage on the field, and maybe it's the week where he turns it around. It's just kind of been Danny Willett's MO kind of for quite a while now. So I'm okay with Willett. How about another European? Was he a Schwab? He's down there at 7,100. You like all these guys more than, I guess, Sepp Straka is also European, but he only plays over here. Where do you rank Sepp Straka against these guys we just mentioned?
So Sepp Straka, first of all, he's becoming one of these guys. His price is just like, he's like 6,000, then he's 7,400. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, him and Vito, it's all over the place.
I struggle with, so Sepp Straka really needs to be precise with his irons because his around the green game is really bad. It's a big problem. His putter spike, that Genesis, that's about all that happens. So I don't think I'm paying 74 for him. I would rather take flyers. Honestly, I might even consider Higo.
Higo's interesting because we know that he's got talent. We saw Waste Management. He had some pretty good rounds. I don't think we've seen him in a grinded out event like the Honda we're about to see to know if this is his style or 65 under par like we saw him, whatever he won. I know we won Palmetto.
Canary Islands.
Thank you. The Canary Islands, where he won those at like 35 under or whatever it was. Let's see him perform well on an 8 under winner event like this week, and I'm all in. He has got a good price. That's the thing, Ben. He's got a really good price this week. A couple of other guys to mention in this value section before we move on to some deeper. Zach Johnson, Taylor Pender. In fact, I think there's a big drop-off after you get to Aaron Rye. At 7,400 below him, I think there's a pretty big drop-off. I'm not real too excited about many people until we get to the long shot section.
I'm kind of with you, and I think that's where if you go very balanced, you don't have to dip if you don't want to. You can really smooth it out in the mid-7s. There's names, and again, we see crazy stuff happen in the Florida swing, but like I'm not really looking at Swafford or Ryder, Ramey, Fratelli, like maybe a share or two, but I can't identify anyone that stands out for me.
Agreed. Totally agreed. All right, let's move on to some strategy chat for probably about 5 minutes, and then we'll end it with our long shots and our one and done. So just over the last couple of days, DraftKings put out their Fantasy Golf World Championship with $1 million going to first place. It likely, I can't imagine, it will be a live event. Typically, it happens either at the Northern Trust or the BMW. I didn't verify the date. It's probably one of those two. But the reason I bring it up is because you can try and enter it for as little as, it looks like $10 is your outright seat ticket. Other ways you could do it. Now, if you were recommending somebody trying to qualify for this that are working on a limited budget, do you like going and trying to play that $10, say, against 2,000 other people? Or would you recommend them going to a $10 satellite against 10 others that gets you a $200 ticket? How would you recommend them play that way?
Yeah, like a super satellite for sure.
Yeah. I see one $9 for the $44 here.
So I think there's two different mindsets with this. One is you can play in satellites every week and allocate a small amount of your bankroll to it. More of the lotto ticket style that you're talking about. You know, you're going to just take a shot every week and try to beat 2,000 people, winner take all. Yep. Or you can say, you know what, I'm going to play this once a month and play in this, like, say, like a $70 qualifier where maybe I get like a $940 ticket or something a little more realistic. I don't think there's a wrong answer there, but I think you bring up a good point. There are stepping stones that you can take because it's very difficult to bank one of those. It can happen, but I would suggest people look at the lobby and really search for some of those satellites to get you tickets into other satellites, because you can definitely make your way in. It's more of a poker thing, but I know people that have done that, and you get in one of those, you never know.
Right, exactly. I'm just saying, for example, you can go pretty far down. I'm seeing a $4. You go up against 13 other people and you get a $44 ticket where now you're competing against 500 for the prize rather than 2,300. And of course, you can keep going up from there. So just want to kind of bring that up about the strategy. I think the exact same thing, Ben, can be applied to if you want to try and get in the $2,500 milli for the players or the 4,000 for the Masters. Similar style. You allocate a certain percentage, but don't go over that percentage. You know, you and I were talking about this last week, Ben, with the milli. We spent a lot on satellites and probably could have just entered the contest outright with how much we spent satellites. So, like you said, be disciplined about how much you want to spend per month to make sure that you're not, you know, creating a pretty bad situation for you there.
Yeah, that those things add up quickly. You know, you hit a bunch of tickets, it's great. I've been on both sides of that fence, so you know, you just got to find your groove with that stuff.
Okay, let's go into some, let's do one and done since that's pretty quick. And then we'll go into some long shots. We see our chat getting ready for the long shot chat. We love that. Okay, last week, I thought Dustin Johnson was the safe play because there was no way he was missing the cut at Riviera. He did. And I thought Justin Thomas was the aggressive play because his putting was so bad. He ended up putting okay, came in sixth. So this week, maybe I should flip it. Maybe not. I did. Sung Jae Im is my safe pick, and Keith Mitchell is my against the grain pick. I'm going to use Keith Mitchell in the larger format one this week because I think that he'll probably come in under 5% owned. And in the other one, which is not I think there's probably 100 people versus, 4,000 entries. I'm in second place there. So I think I want to stay pretty belt for most of the way in. I haven't really used anybody except for Justin that people would consider high up there. Nobody in the world's top 10. So I think I'll just stick with Sung Jae this week and play it pretty safe.
I'm very similar wavelength. To me, Usti is one of the safer guys. The guy's not missing cuts. Everything checks out. He comes ready to play. We saw him at Waste Management. He looked completely fine. So if you wanted to use him, I don't even know how risky Fleetwood would be. It's just weird because we haven't seen him. He's 100% available, of course, for everyone. I
put him
wonder.
In the Keith Mitchell camp.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's just an opportunity if you want to jump on Fleetwood. For me, I'm kind of in the same bucket. I think it's what sometimes people get in the like, oh, I got to save all these guys. There's a lot of world-class players. You're going to have plenty of guys left. I'm playing it pretty conservative this week. I'm going to the top of the board. Give me Usti. I think he's just going to have a solid showing. We move on. Then at the players, that's when serious money comes up and we'll have the world's best to choose from.
Yeah. Now, would you say Usti is safer than Sung Jae, even taking course history into account?
I think they're, amongst the safest. Now, Sung Jae, the one difference, I think a lot of people have used Sung Jae already. So if you do have him, you might actually create some leverage for yourself. A lot of people used him early in the year.
He did. Yep. He was playing well in the first spot of the event. All right, let's go to some long shots here. Let's get right to the chat. And Orion says, hey, Jazz, who is your favorite sub 7K DK play this week? And tell me why it's Bo Hostler. No,
it is Bo Hostler.
I knew it,
yes. First of all, it's kind of by default. It's really ugly down there. There's just not a lot going on. But Bo Hostler's got the right combination. If he can just hold it together with the irons, he's shown a little form here. Crazy putter. We know that. I looked at Poston and Smotherman pretty closely up there. I'm going to throw out one name, though. I think that Satoshi Kodaira is a pretty solid play here. I know he really struggles with Bermuda. He's made 3 straight cuts. He's a winner at Heritage, which I think is a fine comp. I think he's actually a pretty decent target in the mid-sixes if you want to roll the dice.
Got a couple of people that have mentioned no missed cuts. First of all, Chris Stroud. I didn't even know he was still on the PGA Tour. Got to be playing under a major medical. There's a guy that won an event and then went to the PGA Championship the next week and came in the top 5. I don't know if you remember that a couple years ago.
Vaguely.
There. Yeah. I guess he's 10 for 10 here or something like in 10 starts, 7 made cuts. Sorry, as I'm reading chat. And Jason Duffner actually might be 10 of 10 here at PGA National. Either of those guys interest you at all?
Maybe Duffner a little. Wes Bryan is down there as well if he's healthy. His off the tee game was a mess last week. These guys just have no form. Duffner's best finish in like 6 months has been 40th. A lot of missed cuts. Maybe he gets right. It's a pretty good course, but I worry about that.
Couple of guys down the board. Kevin Twain has played okay the last couple of weeks. Popped up on the leaderboard a little bit last week at Riv. Short scan around the green looked okay. He's one of those guys that maybe when you have to rein him in, he's got elite distance. I really don't mind Tway at 6,500. Steven Yeager has got to do something. The guy legitimately looked like a really solid golfer on the Korn Ferry Tour last year. Now, I know it's not the same competition, but man, he torched the field almost every week last year. So it's got to click eventually, right, Ben?
I mean, yeah, I think.
Or not.
No, it's not. He's just a very awkward skill set.
Yeah, he's
really, yeah. He's got some real struggles off the tee, and he kind of takes himself out of it. But he definitely does. I've always said when you get into the sixes, I would rather play a player that does one thing elite than a guy who's just like below average in all four with no glaring weakness. And Steven Yeager is that type of guy. He is a world-class around the green player. The other stuff is very bad, but if that stuff for whatever reason just slows for 4 days, you have a real out with him, unlike some of these other guys that are just below average in all four categories.
A couple of other guys. You mentioned JT Poston missed the cut on the number. That was infuriating to me last week, cost me a couple $100. Doug Gim didn't miss it by a couple. He missed it by more than a couple, but this is a pretty good player down at 6,800. Guy that you and I have tried to play, Nick Hardy, also down here. Do we stick with him this week? A couple of shares?
Maybe a couple shares. I don't know how often I'll need to go into the sixes. So if I don't have room for Nick Hardy, I'll be completely fine. But maybe Jimmy Walker's been brought up. That guy, I can't even pretend to know what's going on with him, but he does somehow get right here, but his form is absolutely broken.
Best value, according to our Awesemo DFS projections, under 7K this week. So I know Chad asked you for your favorite play. Well, I'll tell you the projections favorite play is Hayden Buckley. He withdrew last week from the Genesis, didn't play, didn't give any reason to it. Maybe, I have no idea, Ben. I can't even begin to surmise. I didn't source it through his Instagram account. That would be the only way we'd get into it. But 6,600, couple of top 20s, one top 10 on his card. Hayden Buckley, a couple shares this week if you need to go down there.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that you just want to get a list of guys that you're willing to go to if you have to land in that range. I wouldn't start any builds thinking I want to target these guys just because I don't think paying up for what we have up top is really worth it. So for me, it's not a big deal to get in the sixes, but I'm not actively targeting it either.
All right, Matthew Hirsch wants to know, and we're getting down here. You're going to love it. Tyler Mccumber or Hank Laviota? We saw Hank at least get to the weekend last week, right? I'm pretty sure. I think he doubled the last hole. He was at -2 and got to even, so he made the weekend. Didn't do anything, I don't think, though.
Yeah, again, I mean, and tomorrow night, of course, you know, me and Eric Lindquist, we'll get more egregious. We'll talk about some of these names more in depth. We'll see the tee times, things like that. There's a lot of names, but you just got to be careful because a lot of these guys are only playing 2 rounds. That's for sure.
That's for sure at this point. If I had to pick between one or two, Labiota's playing better and is a better putter than Mccumber. So that's where I think.
Florida State guy as well.
Yeah, Laviota is, right?
Yeah, he is. He's a null. Yep.
Mccumber's a West Coast guy. I'm almost positive too, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds right. I don't think he's a Florida guy.
Well, here's what I can tell you, Ben, that the lineup making in the morning, which I was really enjoying as, you know, my children wear me out at the end of the day. That's done. 6:50 in the morning is opening tee time. It will be cold for golfers teeing off then for about an hour and a half. Then it'll be 80 degrees. That's the weather pattern we're in Florida right now. Although somebody told me on Twitter that said it was playing a little soft, there is no rain in the forecast and it's hot again. The course will be baked out by Thursday. I can promise you that. Fast confirmed. It'll play hard this week, leading up to another difficult week at the Arnold Palmer and then another PGA DFS Millionaire Maker coming up with the players. So a great couple of weeks. And believe it or not, the Masters is only 6 weeks away. It really is. Ben and I may say this a lot. It really is the best time for PGA DFS. We love the Florida swing. It's obviously my home. We got my home event mixed in there as well. So stay with us through that, everybody. Thank you for joining the Honda Classic. Check out Ben and Eric tomorrow on the very scorching hot Live Before Lock show. Cheers, everybody.